Mode.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to today's webinar entitled HETNET Strategies with OI Brazil. We will include today a presentation by Caroline Gabriel, a research director from Maravedis-Rethink, which will be discussing what a small cell looked like in 2015. Before our guest speaker, Alberto Boaventura, who's a technology advisor for OI Brazil. Before we start, I would like to spend just a couple of minutes to do some housekeeping slides. For those that are not familiar with this webinar interface, you can click the arrow on your right side to open and close the control panel. You can click the square to toggle the viewer window between full screen and window mode. As far as audio, you have the option to either use your microphone, speakers, or a list of local telephones in a select number of countries. And throughout the webinar, we welcome questions and comments, and we'll try to address some of these during the short Q&A at the end of the webinar. So without further ado, and maybe some commonly asked questions. Yes, the event is being recorded and will be available for replay within the next 24 hours. The slide deck will also be posted on SlideShare, and the link provided to you for those that have registered automatically through the GoToWebinar system, and will be also available on the maravedis-pwa.com website. So those are the commonly asked questions. We welcome questions and content during the webinar. And without further ado, I would like to present our first speaker, Caroline Gabriel, a research director for Maravedis-Rethink, who will be discussing what a small cell will look like in 2015. Caroline, it's all yours.
Thanks very much, Adeline, and thank you to everybody attending today. My role today really is to offer a sort of general context for the more detailed presentation that we will have from Alberto. As many of you will know, at Maravedis-Rethink we survey over 100 mobile operators on a twice-a-year basis, detailing the technologies they're deploying in their access networks, including LTE, 3G, Wi-Fi, and whatever comes next. And of course, over the past years, there's been increasing focus on very small cells of coverage and capacity. And we've moved on in terms of our definitions from just a single small cell architecture. Now, really, operators are thinking that they can fill those small cells with many types of technology, often in combination. So yes, there'll be the self-contained little metro cells, but also Wi-Fi access points, DAS systems, and as we'll see in this presentation, moving on to virtualized systems. So really I want to look at how perhaps our perception of a small cell has changed and will change further, and the overall reasons why operators are looking at moving towards very dense networks, certainly in certain key locations such as venues or downtown urban areas. So bear in mind that we're not really talking about a single technology here, but a combination of technologies in many cases. And also we mustn't forget the macro layer, which we also survey in a great deal of detail as part of the RAN service, and is certainly not going away as an element of operator strategy, as I'm sure Alberto will confirm later. So I'm starting with rather a familiar type of graph that most analysts show some variation of this. The point of it is to show the kind of horror scenario, if you like, that's facing many operators if they continue to use traditional architectures of the type that we used in 3G. The investment required to meet the additional capacity that they need just to support users' rising demands will outrun, certainly for the first 5 years of any deployment, any incremental revenue that capacity generates. So you can see that the return on investment is long and very uncertain, given that a lot of operators are also engaged with a lot of commercial pressures such as price wars. So there is a massive increase in data traffic. We don't really need to go into that. There are so many figures on it. But combined with intense cost pressures and a limited ability to extend the traditional ways that, that networks have been increased in performance, such as greater spectral efficiency. And in addition, it's becoming critical to operators to reduce their radiated power. So battery life severely limits usage by consumers, and therefore ARPU, to even greater extent than coverage. So that's another element that will drive the uptake of different architectures with smaller cells. Given the challenges that the mobile operators face, increased capacity, reduced ARPU for many services, huge cost pressures, what are their options to keep the business case viable? In reality, it's going to be a great combination of different weapons. Some will start by deferring capacity investment as much as they can and reducing overall costs, and tools already commonly in use for that include offloading as much data as possible to Wi-Fi, sharing networks with other operators, and looking further ahead, approaches like virtualization, which if properly implemented, and that's quite a key element, could reduce the cost base significantly. There are also a lot of tools to optimize the network so that you get more from each piece of spectrum through traffic management, self-optimizing networks, and many other tools which help to create a better return. But to a large extent, this is all defensive. It's about reducing cost, keeping data under control. The dense architectures will only be worth the investment if they will also support new services and brand new revenue streams. And the graph shows some of the combination of tools that operators are looking to use, even after perhaps the option of upgrading the air interface or getting new spectrum has gone away. That has an impact for the first year or two and then starts to diminish. So that you can see in the 5th year of a rollout, much more important for increasing capacity at affordable cost has become the small cells, which includes multi-mode cellular Wi-Fi, flexible networks, and LTE advanced technologies such as coordinated multipoint. All of these things moving towards a HETNET, as I know Alberto will describe to us later, where you have a huge combination of spectrum, different cell sizes, different technologies, different air interfaces, and different tools all working together as a seamless whole. And one common feature, whichever combination of tools and technologies an operator chooses, is that these networks will become more dense. Now, we hear a lot about hyperdensity, and there are lots of definitions of that. Qualcomm and Sprint ran a hyperdense trial, very high profile at NASCAR, which Qualcomm said was the equivalent to 1,000 cells per square kilometre. Very, very rare that any operator will need to be thinking at that kind of scale. But however, we found in our studies a lot of operators already modelling for 500 and more for particular venues, not for the whole network of course, but for sports events, for business parks, for downtown areas and classic areas of high capacity dense usage. Typically this will be achieved with a separate layer of small cells. As we said earlier, many technologies may go into that layer. It doesn't have to be just one architecture. But that layer will be there to provide additional capacity, fill in coverage gaps, but also to support some cost advantages, such as much better integration with Wi-Fi, so that Wi-Fi moves from just being a simple offload platform to being part of the network that can be managed and optimized by the operator. And supporting new types of services. So small cells are inherently very location and presence aware. That, as we know, can drive a lot of new services, both for consumers, such as personalized services, but also revenues from big data. Typically, operators will start to deploy their small cell layer, but using the relatively high power architectures that we see at the moment, which does limit the economics. The high power, relatively high cost mini base stations that are available at the moment can be deployed in tens or scores, but really the economics run out when you start thinking hundreds or thousands. So we'll see the evolution of that technology, as we'll see in a minute, where hyperdensity really is required towards a different architecture that will drive power and cost right down. Some researchers and vendors already talking about a cell site that can be equipped for $100, the price of a cell phone. And at that scale, hyperdensity becomes economically as well as technically feasible. As I said at the beginning, let's not forget the macro layer. There is a lot more performance and efficiency to be squeezed out of the macro layer in most cases, and lots of technical evolution going on there, including massive MIMO. So while we may talk about hyper numbers of small cells, MIMO also has its huge numbers envisaged, at least in the R&D labs. So just throwing this in to remind us that the HETNET will be multi-layer, and there will be density increasing at all the layers of the network, including the macro. And so you can see the graph, our most recent estimates for, yes, the numbers of small cells that will be filled out by 2018, reaching about 7.5 million, but also the number of new MIMO antenna systems that are going mainly into the macro layer. And they're also reaching a run rate of about 1 million. But returning to small cells and hyperdensity, quick sort of summary of key enablers and barriers that will make this possible. Perhaps the most critical enabler is enhanced self-optimizing network tools, which will support true plug-and-play and help to avoid kind of chaotic capacity, which is one of the obviously the great barriers. As you can see, the right-hand column are the barriers. The idea that you throw out lots and lots of capacity and lots of cells, but they end up interfering with one another so much that, it's a negative reaction, a negative response. So for the same reason, we'll be looking for next-generation interference management tools. Some of those are standardized within LTE Advanced, some of them coming from the vendor community, and increasingly very flexible cells that can work together, organize themselves dynamically, so that capacity can be targeted exactly where it's needed at any given minute of the day. And there are some technology evolutions listed here, but there'll be many more opportunistic cells that sort of pop up when they're required and then fade away again. Qualcomm's done a lot of research on that. Very ad hoc networks formed with peer-to-peer connectivity rather than base stations. Cognitive radio, the P-cell, I'm sure we've all seen that as an example of this type of technology. So all these things, if they become commercially and technically viable, will be important enablers of a new level of density. But some things are closer. WiGig, the 60 gigahertz Wi-Fi standard, is with us now, and may be an important addition to the small cell spectrum mix, either for access or backhaul. But significant barriers, most of which do relate to interference, to the unproven ability to scale. Does an operator see diminishing returns as they get past a certain number of cells in a square kilometre? And the more that an operator relies on these fairly viral and ad hoc approaches, the more they go back to an element of being unplanned, which gives massive management challenges at the back end. So a viral network may give low-cost coverage just where it's needed, but it may not be optimal at all because it's not really being controlled in the same way as the operator would normally expect to do. And certainly huge changes to the BSS and OSS required to make these very complex systems really deliver their returns. And traditional network concerns don't go away either. Cost, backhaul, scalability, device compatibility are all issues every time an architecture changes. So I'd just like to finish with a couple of words about virtualization, which has been, I think, seen as a sort of separate technology trend to small cells, but increasingly now the two are coming together. Many operators are first experimenting with virtualization in the core network and other areas, but they're starting to look at the RAN, and in many cases their first trials and tests will actually be when they're deploying a new layer, because that's actually in many ways a less risky thing to do than converting an existing critical network. So we are seeing operators start to put trials in place and looking towards a future architecture with a virtualized RAN, which will, as I'm sure people understand, most of the intelligence, baseband processing and other aspects of the network are centralized. It can be in a base station hotel or in the cloud, and a few or thousands of base stations can then share that resource, which can be allocated dynamically. So all the sort of expensive intelligence is allocated on demand. This is far more economical and efficient and dynamic. But it also, in the small cell case, opens the opportunity to have a far, far simpler piece of equipment actually left at the cell site, something that would be priced in the hundreds of dollars and might finally get small cells to the power and cost levels that are required for hyperdensity. So I'd like to leave on this, this note, which again is about virtualization in small cells. So say lots of promise here. Trials will certainly be starting next year, and we'd expect some of the more cutting-edge operators to have some commercial deployments the year after. But most operators need to feel that there's some sort of common approach and standards before they will take the plunge. They're looking for multi-vendor interoperability. They're looking for the standards bodies to kind of raise their game in this particular area and address the barriers to small cell virtualization, which you can see on the graph on the right as perceived by the operators. You know, will there be a performance compromise, which will be a trade-off against reduced cost? Will there be common standards in time? What about security issues? And many other elements, including the transfer of cost from the network to the IT center or the cloud. So the small cell network, which was once, I think, touted as being something that would simplify the operator's life and architecture, is actually becoming something that's extremely complex and extremely heterogeneous, genuinely moving towards that word now. So at that point, I hope that has sort of set the scene, given some food for thought in preparation for Alberto to drill more deeply into some of the issues. But before he does, I'd like to hand back to Adeline to explain a little more about the methodology and services behind these findings.
Thank you, Caroline. I would just like to take a couple of minutes here to present the research service behind some of the results that Caroline presented today. So we have a RAN annual service, which is really a mix of hard data, quantitative deliverables, as well as qualitative analysis that are provided in different forms and shapes. 2 comprehensive reports per year. There's very in-depth reports, 50+ pages, which come along some of the numbers in Excel. And we also have been requested by our customers to deliver increasingly research notes around different topics that are hot in that aspects of the RAN. And so that service also includes 6 research notes. I think the most important element of all of this is really the analyst support you get throughout the year from Caroline, who's the lead analyst for the service. And so it's really a service dedicated to both the macro RAN and small cells, and we do increasingly work on carrier Wi-Fi. It's mostly based on an estimation of the demand by the operators. So what we do is we analyze the top 40 telco groups, which represent a much broader range of the mobile operators, and we analyze them to derive the demand driven forecast for both sites and associated equipment. So the methodology includes both primary data from interviews and surveys. We do a lot of online surveys, by the way, as a service, as well as secondary data and modeling for each operator. So we compare also our model with vendor forecasts and shipments and input we get from them, and expectations, and we have all kinds of breakdowns by region, technology, etc. We also look at the RAN from the perspective of some of the key areas that were presented here, small cells, HETNET, which is discussed today, but also different aspects of, whether it's carrier aggregation, TDLT, 5G, SON, etc. We'll be doing a lot of work on SON in particular in the next few weeks. For those who don't know, we have a couple of free weekly newsletter. One is specific to the wireless infrastructure. It's called WIN, and it comes out every Tuesday. You can subscribe for free by going to the Maravedis-BW website. And we recently launched the Wi-Fi Opportunity Network, which is dedicated fully to Wi-Fi trends, both from the technology innovation and new business models coming up. And to subscribe, you have to go to the wifi360.com website. If you have any questions or interest in any of the services, please feel free to reach me at the details in the slide. And before passing on to Alberto, I just want to mention that this event is done in partnership with ARVEN, who is be doing the Small Cells America Summit on December the 1st to the 3rd in Dallas. So we welcome you to meet us. Probably one of us will be attending the summit, and it's a great venue to meet some of the key players in the industry. So without further ado, I would like to pass control to Alberto whenever you're ready. There you go. And
okay, hold on. Okay, here you go. Can you hear me?
yeah, we hear you fine. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, thank you very much for joining us, and special thanks to Maravedis and Avrin in order to have this opportunity to share some ideas that we are doing over here. Our subject is very complex, and I'm trying to summarize here in the three main parts: that motivation for HETNET or for small cells, the HETNET overview, it's roughly, and what we are doing here in terms of current direction. Okay. So we are facing with several challenges. The big challenge is that what happened in our industry, that is migrating from telecom general to be a mobile, where we have right now 3 times of mobile broadband if you compare with a fixed landline. And right now, in terms of the most watchable devices, the smartphone and tablets are more watchable than TVs. That what happened here, the mobile is definitely is the most important service that we are facing today. So moving from telecom to mobile, we have another trend is to have the services today is based on data. And so there's a projection from Ericsson that during that year, the 1 quarter of 2013 is correspond to the total amount of data traffic in the 2011, sorry. Something like that we are facing. And you facing what we are verifying here is the data is it's becoming more video application, and Cisco projects that in 2018 that 70% of all of data traffic to be belongs to video. And finally, that a new trend, or that we are verifying that 50% of all of social network, is originated by mobile device. So if you have all of those amount of traffic, and you have like a very concentrated people, like a stadium, like arenas, and something like that, you have an explosion of traffic, especially the density of traffic of that we are considering here. Now, if you see a figure from conventional industry, Manuel, there's a projection with 1 million persons per square kilometers. If all of persons trying to generate like a traffic, it corresponds to 64 gigabits per second per square kilometers. Very huge amount of traffic. And how to handle this? There is no way. We have, as you know, as an engineer, you have like a Shannon-Hartley limit. And what we can do is to have a more spectrum, more technology. And so the three main strategies that we can do is more spectrum, new technology in terms of to increase the spectral efficiency, and split cell should be another alternative as well in order to increase the number of the overall capacity of network. So spectrum is not an easy question, and so ITT projects for 2020 to have like per region 1 gigahertz in each region in the world. In Brazil, we are far from this, and so right now in the if you make a calculation of all of the amount of traffic that our regulator designated to mobile operation here, we have 459 megahertz in total. And if you compare with the US, it's half of the spectrum that the FCC has designated to US operators. So new spectrum, as you know, is it costs a huge amount of money, and probably this spectrum is not be available in the short term for usage. We needed to clean up and to do something. And so the spectrum is a very difficult resource that we do need to for sure to figure out, but we have alternatives here. Alternative is to new technology, and even eventually to have, to densify the traffic using small cells. So why small cells? So as previously mentioned, so we don't have like based on the Shannon and Hartley limit, there's no too much to do, or to have more spectrum, or to have a new technology, or to have small cells, or to have like a split cells using small cells. If you compare the situation when we have in downtown the high density traffic in this line, the green line here, means that what we have in terms of capacity of our system. In general, here is suppose that this system here is 2600 megahertz deployment, and we have several demands in blue lines here. And if you look for in the point A, you can capture all of the demands for 2013, 2014. But if you go ahead to 2015, so in that case, in order to capture this demand for, and we do need to increase our existing grid in terms of a new cell sites for 60%. And if you move forward to another year, it's 2016, you do need to increase again and again. So in that time, small cells should be compatible in terms of cost, in general cost, as we are going to see. So just to summarize, if you put all of the frequency and the efficiency that we have, and the requirement in terms of to capture the very crowd traffic. So if you look for like any kind of frequency using the macro network, not enough. It's not a unique or enough strategy in order to capture this amount of traffic. So that's the reason that Qualcomm estimates the gain of small cell for 30 times. 37 times in terms of capacity in the network if you deploy more small cell in conjunction with macro network. So in terms of cost perspectives, what happened in the macro sites very expensive. It's around here in Brazil. It's around a couple $100,000, and the main reason is not electronic or not the node bills or above node bills, but the infrastructure in general. The real estate, or to have like a new tower, or to have the contract for rooftop, or to make some kind of adjustment in the existing infrastructure. So if you compare the cost with small cells, in general, small cells have 10 times cheaper than macro sites. So based on some analysis that we did, if you plot here in the green line, it's a macro site for 2100 megahertz with 10 megahertz of total bandwidth. And yellow line is if you add more 5 megahertz in the basic scenario, like a 2600, using like a farm or something like that, we're using this spectrum. And 1800 is in the purple line is 1800 with 10 megahertz. If you compare with small cells, there's some specific situation that it will be cheaper than the macro if if you are only going to deploy using the small cells. So considering the several demands year by year here, you can see the small cells is not proper to use, for instance, for 2015, for 2016, but for 2019 should be a very interesting alternative, and it to be cheaper than that what we have here in terms of what we deploy over here. So in general, it depends on the density of the traffic. Each one of strategy should be interesting in each time. For instance, the 1800 is proper to low density traffic, and so when we are going to to increase this traffic, 18 and 2600 is not doesn't matter. And if you are increasing this traffic, when we have like high density traffic, small cell is the cheaper, and with all of solutions that we are have. So for indoor environment, we have some specific dilemma or paradox here, and so there's obligation to provide the coverage in outdoor, but almost all of traffic, even the voice traffic, or 80% of data traffic, is generated in indoor environment. So what we are saying is that even that we are spend a lot of money in order to have infrastructure in outdoor, but indoor is where the users are. So in that case, indoors environment, it can be like 1,000 of times higher traffic than outdoor. And as I mentioned before, when we have this specific situation for the stadium, we have a very amount of traffic to capture. So, but there are three main strategies to have indoor coverage. One strategy is to use like indoor coverage with a regular one, with a DES or something like that. Another one is to have like a microsite with outside to inside to indoor coverage. Yeah, a new one that we are talking here is to use the small cells. Using the macro site, we have a big problem with building loss penetration. So build penetration loss, is something like that. It's a propagation problem that obstacles like concrete, like wood or something like that. It's absorbs some part of energy of electromagnetic wave. So this corresponds in general, if verified, it can be like 50% of general lose of performance. So we are doing a lot of investment in the outdoor, but in order to cover indoor, but you lose this kind of performance. So, and if in order to compensate this loss, we will need to reinvest. And if you compare with the same level of service for outdoor to do for indoor, you need to increase the number of sites in the 209%. With using this very simple study. And if you are going to address the huge amount of traffic that, as we foreseen in the several reports, and so we have a frequency dilemma. If the 700, for instance, the frequency below 1 gigahertz is very good for indoor penetration, but in terms of amount of bandwidth, it's very, tight if you compare with like a very high frequency, like a millimetric wave, like a E-band or 3500. So what is preferable in that situation is to use the outdoor to cover indoor, or eventually to use the indoor with more bandwidth to capture this traffic. So what is HETNET? HETNET is something like, to have a conjunction of solutions, not a unique one. It's to capture this traffic that it will be several technologies, frequencies of sites, and so work together in order to minimize for sure the interference stuff, and to address to capture this traffic. So in terms of HETNET topology or small cell topology, we identify here the main two alternatives. One alternative is actually we are doing using the central cells, where we have like a very small, such as even the Wi-Fi is the same situation. And for residential or for corporate or enterprise premises, and we have like a connection with a fixed line to the core network. Another one is the first one is perfect to capture to some indoor situations to increase the coverage, for instance. And the second one that should be applicable for indoor as well is when we have like a macro site in conjunction or together with these small cells. The main problem related to this, and we are going to see, is how to make those two systems work together without or to minimize the interference. So this kind of deployment that for sure we are talking about here, the BBO hotel, or eventually to have a cloud run in order to do this, or to put all of our BBUs in the network data center, using a virtual machine in order to work with these solutions. So Cloud Run is something like that we are thinking that will evolve this kind of deployment. The main difference, the main change of this paradigm is if you look for the existing deployment topology, what we have is we have a backhaul, we have our BBU with gigabit Ethernet to our backhaul to our core network. So what the industry is planning to have that will minimize, energy footprint and some kind of processor and something like that. Instead of to have the BBU, this is a soft-based unit, distributed to every single site, is to have like in centralized fashion, in the working the same hardware here And instead of to have like a gear Ethernet, we have like a CPRI or I would say or HCRI or some solution that that means that it's fiber to this infrastructure. And the general architecture for Cloud Hub, we have for sure we have a pool of hardware here, and we have a virtualization layer that hypervisor that can manage several hardware here, and each BBU should be an instance or should be a virtual machine running over this like a real-time OS or something like that. And when we have like another network piece using the same hardware as well. So in the infrastructure, what is planned to use is only radio infrastructure, only radio device is here connected to CPRI, and that is the basic architecture. The advantage, the general advantage, I'm pretty sure that you have heard this words right here. It's network function virtualization that allows to use the elastic way, the hardware, you can put more capacity when we are needed to have this, and you have a operational flexibility to reduce the cost of OPEX in terms of energy and so forth. And network virtualization is not a unique word or solution that is planned to in the Cloud Hub, but a software-defined network is something like that very important in terms of how to orchestrate all of those resources and to provide like a transparent way for operators to manage this resource to the network. And for sure, to have an open development interface for further development in general. So, but small cell is not simple. We have a lot of concerns. The main pain points here, one is interference mitigation, as you know, is if you are working with a small cell in the same place as macro cells, we have a lot of interference in downlink and uplink. But fortunately, the industry is doing a very good job in trying to minimize and mitigate this interference using ICSC, inter-cell interference coordination, or evolved one, or further evolved one, and eventually to have like a coordinating point. Specifically when we are using the CRAN, that should be a very interesting solution to coordinate the resource, like coordinating scheduling, coordinating informing and joint processing and something like that. But this architecture to HETNET is to migrate to CRAN or to there's a new impact that probably, even today we have a lot of concerns about it to, all of the infrastructure is based on IP access, and we have like a synchronization using the IEEE 1588 and so forth. But when we are talking about the CRAN, in that case, in order to develop like a functionality like evolved ICSC, we do need to have like a synchronous accuracy around 1.5 microseconds. That for using the regular transportation way, it's not possible. So that's the reason eventually we are going to require the CPRI in order to do this. In terms of mobility, it's we do need to have a lot of things to do. We are talking about the border will not be like between macro, but between macro and then small cell. We do need to have like a very the parameters to take a decision of handover need to have more details, and this kind of planning of mobility, we need like a new planning tools that probably trying to identify not only the pinpoints or like a verti points, something like some meters in terms of traffic, where it would be a preferable place to put a small cell. This probably that will need like information from social networks or some additional information. The deployment and rollout is not easy, as you know. We need a new site acquisition relationship with our partners in order to acquire, to rent this, and to develop new leases. And another big issue, the installation of small cells is not as we have like for macro cell. Small cell is a large scale. And we need a specific way to install this. Another problem is the visual pollution, that we need to do some kind of camouflage to avoid this pollution. And so there are a lot of problems related to this. And in specific one for Brazil, we do need to solve some problems with tax that since the resolution 624, we addressed the tax for a small cell below to 1 watt, but we do need to do the same for 5 watt small cells as well. We needed to have some kind of conversation with our regulator here. So in terms of concerning case, this what you have, what we are trying here, what we have in our network, and the specific motivation to use of each technology. The motivation for 3G campus cell for sure is to improve the indoor coverage and eventually to have like a voice offload traffic. The reason to use only voice offload traffic that we have Wi-Fi to do the data traffic offload. We have a high throughput if you compare with 3G, and even all of smartphone can support any kind of a flavor of Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is preferable to use for legacy smartphone. AF for sure is a very traditional one, and I think that all of Toyota has this. Indoor small cells, we are thinking about to coverage and capacity, and also outdoor small cell for capacity, and the HETNET for sure is to increase the capacity in general. So in terms of frequencies, that one here is one important thing that is needed to check if each one of this technology has a specific requirement in terms of latency, in terms of throughput that they do need to do. As mentioned before for Caroline, it's one big issue for this transport or back haul or front haul, and we do need to concern with. Fortunately, there are some very nice solution that is appearing to have a moot point system that is a very interesting radio solution that using the visibility, but you can use like a full mesh visibility, moot point to moot point connection using the very sophisticated algorithm using the SON. Okay, and what we are doing here, as you know, in 2010, we bought the VEX. It's the biggest our Wi-Fi operator, and in Brazil, and with several airports around the world that has had access points. In 2011, we signed up a contract with phone to provide the phone roamers capability, and putting in each our DSL modem to put the capability to have the Wi-Fi connections. So it's our strategy. Further, we are deploying, we tested in the 2011 to have Wi-Fi the payphone, to reuse the points where the payphone are, in order to have more, to increase the coverage for Wi-Fi. And so in 2012, we start carrier Wi-Fi, so in order to comply with the soccer game, the football game, the World Cup. And right now we are the leader. You know, we have like almost 1 million of access points, and then if you compare with our main competitor, you know, we are several times over. And the Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi, you know, as I mentioned before, any kind of a smartphone that you have, it can support a flavor or technology of Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi has harmonized, you know, the frequency around the world using unlicensed frequency. And that we have a scale, we have terminals, we can provide, you know, to increase coverage. You can provide the very good customer experience in terms of access data using the device. And what happened here? And using the Wi-Fi, and as you know, we was a sponsor to provide the infrastructure for FIFA World Cup, and with a bunch of network element pieces. And so what we are bringing to you is a very successful experience using Wi-Fi here. And in total in Maracanã, we use 217 access points, and each one with 450 megabits per second. And in that case, we can offload around 37% of all of our mobile data in all of 6 football games. And finally, what we are thinking in the short term, for sure, is you know, we have several situations, since rural to ultra dense urban, and you know, when we have like a very, you know, a low dense traffic, for sure that eventually satellite or 450 to 1800 should be an alternative to provide the coverage to the user. But when the traffic is going to be densifying, we believe to more alternatives, and as I mentioned before, it's one is Wi-Fi for sure, and another one is densify GSPA, and densify then 2600. And then against the urban, you are thinking about the metro Wi-Fi and the public payphone and something like that. And the ultra dense urban. As soon as the technology will are available, and right now we have you know, IME advanced solution for Wi-Fi is 11AC. We are right now deploying the AC as well with 1 gigabits per second in the air interface. We are increasing or you know, providing more capacity in terms of using the new technology. One technology that we should be help us as well is the multi-sector macro, you know, using, you know, several sectors, 18 sectors or more, to provide several sectors to outdoor or even to using the indoor. For sure, the care aggregation or even to use more frequency should be an alternative as soon as it we will have available, you know, referring anyone that we have, for instance, the 1800. And as soon as the technology will be available, we are going to deploy the high order MIMO with a full-dimension MIMO as well, in order to compensate or to complement what we will do using the small cell indoor and outdoor. So, as for the technology we are available, we have very good expectation in terms of high efficient wireless LAN with AES that will be 10 gigabits per second in air interface. That should be an alternative that is going to be available for sure that we have in our network to provide more capacity for our end users. And then in future as well, Cloud RAN and HETNET is a good player for street level coverage and even to use like a street in the lamp poles and something like that. That should be an interesting alternative. And just to finish, in terms to capture the indoor and outdoor solution, there's no a unique solution. It's not a frequency, only a frequency. It's not only technology, not only a small cell. What we do need to have a good resource to do a good planning in our network in order to improve, in order to optimize the resource that we have. We have a lot of resource, we have a lot of technology, and with a good performance, and we do need to use this. That's it. Thanks very much for the opportunity again to share with you all of this discussion. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Alberto. I think we are almost running out of time, but would like perhaps give it an opportunity for a couple of questions. Caroline, if you want to select some of the questions that we have received, would be appreciated here.
Yeah, great. Yes, a couple of quick questions, and I'd like to say thank you, Alberto. That was a fascinating presentation. There was quite a lot of interest in the audience in the Cloud RAN and virtualization side. So I wonder if you could comment on the front haul aspect of the Cloud RAN and the capacity that that you'll require, whether that's over CIPRI or OBSI.
Say that again. What is the capacity of Cloud RAN? I think that
for the front haul in a Cloud RAN.
Okay.
I wonder if you have a comment on that.
Yeah. The center in the Cloud RAN should be an alternative, but I'm not sure. It's central. That means that we are talking about a very a low power small cell. For sure that it could be a solution if you are classify sample as a low power small cell. You can have, if you have like a radio unity with a low power, you could classify and they can use. Should be an alternative as it's happening with home gateway or customer premises in the Cloud RAN. The front cell should be interesting alternative as well for residential or for enterprise.
Great. And just a final one, because we are at the top of the hour, but are you hoping for new spectrum bands to use in Brazil, and where might those be?
Yeah, the general problem with the spectrum in Brazil, the spectrum in general, if you have any spectrum, it is used by another, system or another service right here. The spectrum is not, we don't have empty or a clean up spectrum. Spectrum is not available to use in the short term. For instance, for 700 spectrum, that based on the switch off time frame, we don't need to wait until 2019 in order to have it to use all of the spectrum in all of places here in Brazil. It's not good. We do need to have a solution to do right now. And so spectrum in order to capture the capacity, we need a spectrum that has enough bandwidth. If talking about spectrum below 1 gigahertz, what you have is at maximum it's 10 plus 10 megahertz to use. And so if you compare, for instance, for a millimetric wave like a E-band, we have like 13 gigahertz total. And even if you're talking about 3500, that you could use here as a supplemental downlink, you have today 2000 megahertz to use to increase the capacity of the network. And, so for small cells, that is applicable for indoor, applicable to increase the capacity, the spectrum must have greater than 1 gigahertz and maybe over 35 megahertz. That will be more applicable in this situation.
Thank you. Great. That's interesting. But sadly, I think we will have to call a halt there. I'm sorry that we couldn't address everyone's questions, but perhaps you'd like to be in touch with us directly. I think Adeline shared the contact details, and we may be able to try to help. But for now, I'd like to say thank you so much, Alberto, and hand back to Adeline to close.
Thank you very much. So just a reminder, thanks to Alberto and Caroline for the great presentations. Thanks to Avren for helping us put together this event. And thanks for the participants for attending today's webinar. We hope to see you in Dallas. That closes the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.